Have you ever? You've been in the ocean before.
Yes.
You know how I assume you're going out on a nice summer's day. The sun's shining. You ever go out in the water and it's nice and warm because it's kind of sun-baked? And then you hit that cold spot?
Yeah.
What's going on with that? Why is there like a little, and sometimes in the ocean there's like a really cold spot?
So you've been in several public pools, right?
Yeah.
You know what a warm spot means in a public pool, right?
It's the inverse. It's the absence. It's the only place in the ocean
where there's not urine.
That is absent of piss. It's an anomaly.
It all rises to the top. That's why it's so warm at the top. So you have to go really far down to find
that's what
clean spots.
Pee-free zone. Because at the top you got all the crabs and fish just as they're going, just whizzing. Except sometimes, when the fates align, there's a cold spot that appears.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Speculation Station, the show where we take a video game, be it a single game or an entire franchise, and turn it into a movie.
Yeah, but not just any movie. We turn it into a mediocre movie, a movie getting a solid 55%. Not sure why we went with that number. That's 11 divided by 5. And we do our best to get there because that's success for a video game movie, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I would definitely agree. Now, we have a bit of a different opinion when it comes to what makes a video game movie good, but you know what? There would be no discussion without, different opinions.
I'm Eric Crittenden here with Joseph Thomas.
Howdy.
This is, okay. Today we're talking about Subnautica. It's underwater Minecraft, basically. And it was too scary for me to play.
I would not compare it to underwater Minecraft. If I were to compare it to something else, I would compare it to The Forest, but I guess that's also more of a niche as well.
Underwater Ark Survival Unlimited. Unlimited? Eliminated? Evolved.
What are you?
Ark Survival Ultimate.
Ark Survival
New DLC
Below
fighters.
Zero.
They added Byleth.
Oh, I remember that.
Into Ark. That's a good one. She could turn into rage mode when a dinosaur provoked her.
Excuse me, she?
Or he.
They.
It's up to you.
Twitter bio says they.
Twitter bio says they?
Yeah.
Gotta play it safe.
Yeah, Byleth was...
It is two people,
so. But it is also another person within a person. So...
Well, either way you split that coconut, there's two people inside. We're not here to talk about Ark Survival Melee. We're here to talk. We're here to talk about Subnautica. Joseph, if people don't know about Subnautica, can you give them a little bit of an intro?
So Subnautica, as Eric did state, the best way to describe it is like Minecraft. It is a sandbox adventure game with survival elements where you are stranded on an alien planet that is probably, I think, highly submerged. There are some mountain ranges, there are some places that you can actually go on land, but the almost entirety of it is underwater, hence the name Subnautica. You, Eric,
me,
are forced to swim to the deepest depths.
I really like Subnautica when I first played, and I'm gonna get back into it later. But that first couple of hours where you're kind of still in the sunlight range, I was like, all right, this is cool. You pop your head back up, you see nothing but water. You're like, this is awesome. And then you got to go a little deeper. That was when I started getting a little worried. That was when I started hearing some strange fish noises. I said, I don't know about this one. The game loop, isn't it just basically you go down, collect resources, kind of fabricate them into different tools or structures, etc., and then just kind of expand out from there?
Yes, so the game does have a story. It is, for its most part, an exploration survival game. You explore, you find resources, you go down deep, dark tunnels, you find more resources, you don't get eaten.
That's a good one.
You try not to die.
Now, is there a ending Minecraft doesn't really end. Does Subnautica have an ending to it?
Subnautica is more definitely defined. As in where Minecraft, you defeat the dragon and you can keep playing and there's more stuff to do. In Subnautica, when you beat the game, it is over. All of your progress, you only choose to beat the game when you've decided, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm sick of this world.
So yeah, let's get into the story a little bit.
So Subnautica takes place in the late 22nd century, so into the distant future.
Okay.
Who knows? Space travel is such a big thing that they have created these little warp doors.
A Stargate?
that are
It's very. Let's be honest. It's not called Stargate.
But they set these up at various distances, out in the universe, so that it makes space. It's basically setting up the potential for colonization. It's setting up the potential for getting to these planets and being able to say, hey, you know how normally it takes how many months to get to Mars? Well, now you can just do it in a day. So several ships have been sent out to go make these, various warps and various gates across the universe.
For colonization?
Yep, or just for obtaining resources or whatever.
Just to see what's up.
And there's a ship called the Degassi.
I think Drake was on that show.
He was. He didn't make it. I'm sorry.
He didn't make that one.
Nor did any of the members, the rest of the crew on the Degassi.
What happened?
Which is because it was flying over a little planet that we call 4546b.
Probably could come up with a better name than that.
That's what we call it. And it apparently just had some malfunction. Nobody knew what was going on. The whole ship almost blew up and crashed into the planet.
Okay. That's not our player. He's not on that ship. Or
No.
They're not on that
The
ship.
player is not on that ship.
Okay.
Is on a ship called the Aurora, which is originally sent to also go to that same sector to build a gate, but is given the secret mission that nobody knows about but some specific people to look for survivors of the Degassi on that planet. Lo and behold...
So this is sent after the Degassi.
Right, 10 years. So lo and behold, they fly next to the same planet, and what is this? A big old laser shoots them down. So we realize now that the same thing that shot down the Degassi 10 years ago is apparently still active, whatever it is, and it just destroyed your ship, leaving you as the only known survivor, managing to escape in a life pod.
Okay.
And get to the planet's surface.
And now, when you say surface, does that mean water or like below the water?
That means water. You start off in a little life pod floating above the surface, and you can immediately choose to go out the top and say, well, what is this? And it shows a little cutscene where you're looking at the world, or you can go out the bottom and just start swimming.
It is it's actually like it's a very surreal thing. You pop your head out, and like as far as you can see, it's just water, and then off in the distance, you see your crashed ship on fire, like super far away, and you're like, all right.
So most people who play the game at this point, you get the little computer that tells you how to kind of survive.
Yeah.
And
the little tutorial computer thing.
Right. And it basically just gives you basic information. It doesn't really entice you to go explore other than saying, hey, you might want to go look for other life pods. You might want to check out the ship, that just crashed.
Aren't there other escape pod like signals you can track?
Yes, there are. So that's another thing is there's little tiny things. This is what I like, I think, about the game and what we could hopefully use to our leverage when translating it into a movie. Is it does not force you to do any one thing immediately. If you want to do something, there is a level of progression you have to reach to get to that point. So, for example, if you want to go check out that crashed ship, well, you got to think that this huge ship is powered by nuclear, I believe, fusion, fission, whatever it would be called, and its reactor is completely destroyed, leaking radiation into the entirety of that area around the ship.
Or you could do what I did is when I got to that middle level and got too scared, I just decided to straight up swim directly to the ship. It took a very long time, and then I died of radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
Should we go ahead and get started on the movie, or should we continue with the story of the game and just kind of have that all good to go?
I'll go ahead and finish up. The rest of the story is not too difficult to understand, but I think it's very interesting, especially considering the time period that we're in. So, turns out, as you investigate the planet through this exploration, which is the bulk of the game, you start to find these structures that are alien in nature, and you investigate them and you go deeper and you're like, okay, what are these buildings? And you find out they are these massive cities and these kind of containment units and research facilities and laboratories built by alien species.
Under the sea?
Under the sea, above the sea. And that kind of brings into question, how has the geography of this planet changed? Because apparently these things existed a long time ago. And what happened was they were studying a disease, I believe called Kara. I believe that's what they're calling it. I could be mispronouncing that. And they were looking for a way to stop that disease. And what they did is they built these massive machines, these massive weapons, big lasers that basically shoot anything that tried to come to the planet because the planet was quarantined. And if anything got to the planet, it would die from the disease because there was no cure.
So when we get
sounds a little counterintuitive, to be honest, but
when we gonna get one of them bad boys, just put in the middle of like Kansas or something.
You cannot come into our country.
Firing at people.
You are not welcome. But
okay, so what happened to these ancient alien people?
They died. They all died to the
What was
disease.
their name? Did you say their name?
No, I did not say their name. I said the disease is written as Kara.
The Kara.
And I don't know how that is pronounced. So Kharaa.
Okay.
What they did start to study, and you find this, once again, through exploration, is that they found these enzymes from the one of the native life of that planet. They found an enzyme from a creature called the Sea Emperor. And the Sea Emperor could produce an enzyme that would have the effect of fighting the virus.
Is this like are we got like a King Triton situation? Like what do when you say Sea Emperor, what should I be thinking of?
A giant sea dragon Leviathan.
Oh, okay, not what I was thinking. All right. Now Leviathan is the scariest monster.
Leviathan is the scariest monster, but the Sea Emperor is like, imagine that in its structure and its terrifying nature, but docile.
But cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
So these enzymes...
Okay. So they're studying the Sea Emperor.
Right, but the enzymes, over the course that they're studying these, and I'm assuming this is because the Sea Emperors live for an extremely long time, the enzymes aren't potent enough in this generation of Sea Emperors.
Okay.
So they die. All the people who have the disease die. It kills off a lot of the population of the planet, creates kind of mutant forms of other creatures. In some creatures, the disease can exist and be transmitted without actually affecting the creature, or slowly affecting its lifespan.
Right.
However, when it gets to you, and you realize that it gets to you, you don't have much time left. You're thinking, well, I gotta leave. Here's the problem. That big space laser is still set up to shoot anything that is trying to leave or come to the planet.
So you gotta destroy that laser.
Well, you don't really have a means to destroy it. What you do have, though, is a means to deactivate it if you can put your DNA in the system and it can identify that you are clean. No disease. Well, since you've already been on the planet for over 2 minutes, you've got the disease.
You probably... over 2 minutes, yeah. So what do?
You are going to have to go on a long journey, finding this research, getting this information, garnering as much information as you can about this to find the only living Sea Emperor that is left.
Oh.
And to find the eggs of the only living Sea Emperor so that you can make young Sea Emperors that will actually be able to produce a strong enough enzyme to fight the virus.
To cure you,
so that you can hit the button, say, look, I'm clean, and build your rocket and leave. Quick note. When you do find, and this is one of those little, narrative points while you're exploring, this cutscene happens when you reach a certain area of the world. You find one of the towers, of course, that you just think is a tower, and you get a call from a ship saying, hey, we found you, we can come get you. And so it comes down, it gets shot, and so that's when you witness, and that's, of course, the realization that, we were shot down.
Wait, so there's a third ship that crashes down?
It's a very small ship, nobody cares.
So do you ever find the Degassi? Degassi? Sounds better, so I'm going to go with Degassi.
Yeah, you find information about it. You find, And I think that's, once again, what pushes the narrative. Oh, it's a disease. So even if the people were still there, they'd already be dead of the disease. Those who survived the crash.
Oh, right. Okay. So you don't find any survivors there or anything.
You are the only human that exists on that planet.
All right. Cool. Okay. Well, I'm ready to dip in.
All right.
So to speak, if you are.
I'm ready to double dip, and people are mad at me at the party.
All right. So I've got 3 movies I think we should use 4 movies actually we should use for inspiration.
Oh.
And I'm hoping you've seen at least 2 of them. We're going to go for a 50% watch rate.
All right.
Interstellar.
Yep.
Alien.
Okay, like the original Alien?
The original 1979, I think. The Abyss by James Cameron. And then finally, you ever seen the Cloverfield Paradox? I don't blame you if you haven't.
I don't think I have.
I think we can do a kind of like a sci-fi horror thing.
Okay. I think that route can work for us.
Horror thriller, somewhere that blends that line. Kind of an alien thing because you got the Leviathans, and there's just the fear of the ocean, and then the more sci-fi elements like the big stone laser.
Well, the difference between, of course, a horror and a thriller is what's going to happen in the conclusion. Do we want this character to survive, or do we want there to be a victory?
Well, what happens in the game? Do you just leave and then the game's over?
In the game, you leave, and then there's a very Portal-esque joke where they say, well, you've been using all these resources for the facility, you've been building all of these things with our blueprints, you're in massive debt to the company that sent you out there now, and are going to probably be sent to jail.
Okay, we can cut that part. that part sucks.
But you do supposedly return home. We don't see your arrival back, but you get to a little wormhole and you're going.
Did you say that you talk to the Sea Emperor?
You don't. Well, talk is a very
talk might not be the right word, but you communicate.
Communicate, and there's a mental. There's kind of a. There are. I don't know if it would be called telepathy, but it's kind of the understanding that you're hearing a voice, and I guess you could say that it's your brain perceiving certain signals as a voice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could probably have like a moment where because you help the Sea Emperor out, I'm assuming.
Yeah, by birthing new Sea Emperors.
You could have a moment where the character's flying up out of the atmosphere with a rocket, and then you look back, and maybe in the water you see the shadow of the Sea Emperor or something. Maybe there's like one last telekinetic message or something.
Now, believe it or not, there is actually a specific character that you play as in the game.
I think what we've learned so far from this podcast, especially when it comes to like Portal, is we want to give, Subnautica is even more than Portal. We should give our characters some other people to interact with. And in Portal, we obviously had GLaDOS and the Hratman and all that good stuff. But I think our first change to Subnautica is we give them a crew on the planet.
Okay, so we go the alien route.
So it's not just them by themselves. We go kind of the Alien Interstellar. And it doesn't have to be like as big a crew as Alien, which I think had like 7 people.
Well, and hear me out. What if we still kept with the nature of the loneliness and had the ending be a little bittersweet, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we could slowly kill them off. if you want, that's fine. They die of the virus or the monster. I mean, it's horror, so I have no connection to these people. I don't care.
And you won't too by the end of the movie.
I think, what you could do is maybe you start. When they first crash, maybe there's like 2 or 3 people in the pod together, and then they find another pod with 1 or 2 people, and then they kind of link up, and then one by one they all die except that our main character, whatever their name is.
Yeah.
The Mongolian person.
Do we want to change that, though? I mean, I know, once again, we feel a little limited by that. Do we want to redefine this character? And not for the sake that we can't remember who they are, but for the sake that maybe we want to make them have a different role. Maybe we want to make them have a different path than what the original character in the original story would have had.
And the path being...
So in our story, the path is you just kind of find all this out and make, for no particular reason other than you being the player character, are able to decipher this information as you receive it, through the help of course, the AI and all that. And you're able to determine, okay, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And a lot of it more is just kind of pop-up information rather than the AI even telling you what to do. It's like, oh, you found this. Now the next logical step is to do this. And it's like, okay,
Yeah,
why would you know to do that?
Side note, I just looked it up. The main character's name is Riley Robinson.
Riley Robinson.
He is the maintenance chief of the
Maintenance
Aurora.
chief. Oh.
Maintenance chief. How big is the Aurora? I mean, like, not size-wise, because it's really big, but like crew-wise, like.
Oh, I'd imagine hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds,
like,
and
it looks almost like, and I'm going to pull a very, very obscure reference, bonus points to anybody who understands this. I'd say it's like a red dwarf thing, where it's almost like a small city, you know, with the amount of crew. Because when you see it off in the distance, the sense of scale you get,
it's very far away.
Right. So I think a ship that massive would need a crew like exceptionally large.
So five surviving isn't that crazy. I mean, it's still pretty insane that many people died, but I mean, we can obviously up the spectacle of the ship crashing, and then
and I think even if we start to kill off the survivors we do see, we can realize that it's more believable that they all would have died or the other ones would have died because of the intense, the harsh environment, you know,
and the virus, which I imagine would kill people, right?
The question then is, if we bring the virus as the biggest contributing or a big contributing factor, how is it going to affect those and not others? For example, because if they're all human, they all have the same basic physiology.
But I mean, if you even just look at the coronavirus, like some people are asymptomatic, some people just straight up are immune. It's not that crazy to think one of the people could be immune. Maybe Riley, the main character.
But then that would defeat the purpose of creating a cure. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think we should bring up the top subject of immunity. I think we should make this once again
just resistance. Maybe he's more resistant to it than the others.
Right, more. Okay, I can agree with that.
Not that they're all going to die from the virus.
Definitely symptomatic, but maybe you see somebody like the symptoms just overwhelm them, and that's kind of what they die from. And then later you see Riley coughing or whatever a symptom would be.
So we kind of have an outline. Well, we have the pieces, and we'll have to figure out what order to put them in. I think we start with the Auroras in space, where we learn a little bit about the main crew. We learn a little bit about their mission.
I think that would be a good way to set up the scale, though, as well. The scale as well.
Sure, yeah.
So you're seeing this massive crew, and you can almost do like a business as usual kind of beginning.
Right. Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, here's the situation, here's the time period we're in, here's the ship we're in, and here is how this is supposed to work. Hundreds of people with different roles on the crew, alternating shifts. It's like a big ship, like a big naval ship, but it is almost more corporate and business in its design. It's very sleek. Everything is very, let's not say too pristine, not, creepy.
Well, it could be kind of like if you ever played the 2015 Prey, like the ship that's set on, it's just kind of, it's got a little bit of like an Art Deco thing going on.
Right,
like,
it's very, it's pleasant.
It's very fancy, yeah. Now, you did say the Aurora is a colony ship.
Yes, so it is. Its purpose is to go out and set up these points so that it can transport people. Mm-hmm. That could also be a factor. It could also be a factor that instead of it just being a crew, it is built like a city so that it can actually, habitat people while it's making these voyages out to set up these gates.
Yeah,
because somebody's got to get out there before you can set up the warp.
Well, there's two ways you can think about it, and I'm not sure which one I prefer. There's probably the latter. There's either they're gonna stop at 4546b. We'll call it Water Planet. They're gonna stop at Water Planet to search for the Degassi, and then they're gonna go to the Colony Planet. So they've got a lot of colonists there, a big population, a couple hundred of them. Or they're just coming back from population of a colony planet somewhere. And so, it's pretty bare bones. There's not that many people. I think the latter is more realistic in terms of like pure spectacle. How it would look. I think the first one would be better just because, you have all these people milling around, really gives a sense of life.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer?
I think maybe we could even imply, if we want to get deep and we want to set up this thing, that there was the secret, kind of underlying mission to check out that planet, and nobody else knows what happened to that planet other than maybe a few select higher-ups on the ship.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to spend too much time on the Aurora before the incident, but I think we should probably set up that they're passing by this planet and almost nobody expects anything bad to happen.
You know what you could do? Yeah, they're just like the Degassi had like an engine malfunction or so,
Yeah,
something
it's like
fairly
almost
just,
you could have, even in the sense of like, oh, if you look to the left, there is this planet, and it's like, oh, cool, and then all of a sudden, laser.
because if it's a secret mission, I forgot about that. I would say probably they'd just go with like crew personnel, right? They wouldn't bring all these colonists. So maybe we could start.
But that's not the main. That's not the main point, though. The implication.
Well, I know.
would
I'm saying maybe we could start the movie with the Aurora dropping off the colonists on this planet, and then they go over to Water Planet, which is like the next one over for the Degassi. So that gives us enough time to set up the purpose of the Aurora, as well as our characters before it crashes.
Okay, I can work with that. And then you can have kind of this sense of downtime. Even though it's the beginning of the movie, you have these characters who, the mechanics and everything, and they're like, man, oh, I'm so glad once we get rid of, all those people, it's like, the crew's lightened.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I'm glad we don't have to deal with those colonists anymore, and we could just kind of work a little more casually.
Do you think that then we would want to introduce information about this intended mission early, or is this something that the crew is going to find out after the incident?
So obviously we have a captain character, and she's like, I'm trying to think, would she give them all a briefing? Because assuming at this point there are no more colonists, like everyone here is hired by the corporation or the government, the corporation, right?
Right, but the game does not specify who was informed about the mission itself. And I think the implication could be, what if it's something where the intention wasn't even for the whole crew to know? It was just, hey, we're going to swing by this planet because it's on the way to where we need to set up our next gate. And because of that, along the way, we're going to, a smaller ship is going to be sent out down, to go investigate that. But nobody really needs to know.
But like, if they sent a smaller ship, why would the Aurora get shot down?
This thing gets shot like out of orbit. Like it gets shot from a distance.
So it doesn't enter
that's
the
Point.
atmosphere.
It just has to be in the area and it gets shot.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can shift things a little bit and say like there's a skeleton type crew. Like maybe they're sending two manned vehicles down there of 5 people each, including the main character, just to go check it out. And so that's why those 2 pods are safe, because the Aurora gets shot out of the sky.
Ooh, I like that actually, because I like the way that if we intend it to where, so they get loaded up and they say, we get the main characters informed about this and says, hey, most other people don't need to know. We're going to send you because you are skilled as a mechanic. You have these skills. You need to be a part of this crew.
Yeah.
And we're going to send you. So they get loaded up on the pod before they even enter the area, because they're getting set up.
Yeah, I like that. They're in the pod, and then they get shot out of the sky.
Yeah, as they cross through the area, the pod gets shot out, and then moments later, this huge laser just shoots the biggest thing in the sky, which is the Aurora.
Or this is a very small thing, but it shoots the Aurora while they're still attached.
Oh, so they realize immediately.
Yeah. It doesn't really have any bearing. I'm just thinking.
Either way, that could add a bit.
I like both of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, they crash land. If it's 5 each, and we need to kill 2 off just kind of from the jump here in the pod.
What if one? Oh man, this is gonna be kind of creepy. If we want to start off hard and strong, we could have one not make it to the pod in time. And the pod has to eject. So say the little door closes, but the guy's still on the other side of the airlock, and just
it's like an emergency airlock. Like as soon as the ship isn't pressurized anymore, because of the big hole in it. Like all the airlocks are like shut off. Oh, what'd be cool is like, what if it's very close to where the escape pod is, where the laser hits, and like we just see the guy get sucked out.
Oh,
like
that'd be crazy.
He's running, and then poof, and he just goes wah, just flies
I
off.
think because in the game it's like this huge beam that just gets shot at one point. I think we can tweak that a little bit. We make it a much smaller beam, but it like has that cutting action, that we very much like to see in these sci-fi films.
Yeah.
So we get to see it slice the ship apart, and then as it exploding, because obviously the whole thing is, it's like a big nuclear reactor. As it gets busted and destroyed, we see that hole. Yeah, and now the guy is gone. Okay, first guy gone.
First guy. We're down to 4, baby. So
we want to identify these characters.
I was about to say the guy who just died. We don't care about him.
I think we should of course have all these characters give some character in relation to each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're all gonna die, but it doesn't matter.
Maybe even a skill set. Here's an interesting.
I mean, they'd all have. We just have to think how they'd be useful to the Degassi. Like chief maintenance. Makes sense.
You're gonna have someone who is, of course, the designated scientist of one kind or another.
Sure.
I would think a zoologist of some kind would be very important.
Well,
but considering they don't know that much about the planet, maybe just an overall.
My question would be with that is like, are they going to explore the life, or are they just going to go check on the Degassi?
Well, I think they don't know. That's the truth. They don't know what to expect. So I think they'd have a crew that is going to do both. They're going to have mechanics and
okay.
And
I like that. Okay,
rescue
we split
people.
The ships up. You have your scientific crew on the other pod, and then you have your more, I guess, Degassi focused crew. You got your maintenance. Maybe you have a medic. You have
a security personnel.
Security.
Not necessarily a soldier, but somebody who's going to be important in that regard.
Right, just in case something hostile happens. Let's see. You have your. It'd be cool, because one of the big things the creators wanted to do when they made the game is like have a non-violent game. So what if it's the security guy who gets killed right at the jump?
Would you believe me if that's why I brought up the point of setting up these characters? Because I think if we showcase early on, that this character is kind of gruff and kind of focused on that mindset, and then just nix him right at the bat, I think that would be, it's kind of a nod to the concept, but I think it also sets up the theme of the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The horror, you're like, we don't have anyone who can fight back.
Yeah.
I say we keep the medic. How about we do maintenance, and then we just have like a straight up engineer?
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, so you have like Riley is kind of, he fixes the ship, and the other guy is like designs the ship. So he kind of knows together they know pretty much everything about the ship mechanically. And then should you have like an electronics person? Maybe that's the engineer.
I think we could tie those two together. I think the engineer is not necessarily someone who's developed and designed stuff, but understands its inner workings beyond just fixing them. Can reconstruct things, can redefine what stuff means. So right now we've got, you said, the medic.
We got medic, we got maintenance with Riley, we got engineer, we got security who dies.
Security's dead.
Maybe you could have like I don't know, this is going to be kind of weird, like a cartographer type or someone who can help locate
there we go. Somebody
ship.
who, so you'd have the medic, which is the more biological, science, and then you have maybe somebody who's more geographical.
This has nothing to do with like the geography of the planet itself. It's just more about like locating the ship, because the other crew is going to be
somebody
like,
who would know. He understands sonar. He understands. Basically, it's like the version of a geographist for marine life, where they can tell by the structure. We don't have to get deep into it. We can just explain that they know. They know land.
They're literally about to die, so it doesn't matter. Or should we kill the electrician?
How long we keep these people around, because we can't expect our main character to understand all of the concepts that are going to be presented to them.
That's why I say we either need to kill the engineer or the this scout person.
I say okay. So when are you thinking the next death has to happen?
Like when they crash or before they crash. When they start going into the water, they're down to 3.
I think we could get away with the geographist, the the geographist. That's not the right word.
Geographer is the word.
Geographer. Thank you.
Geographist.
Dying right then, but them having some information on their person that would be beneficial. Something to easy to
okay, yeah, because so like they have their backpack, they have their equipment in the ship, but they like die of like a lack of oxygen or something.
I think they
like
just
that.
straight up. I think if we want to be violent, they die on impact. Like we see this thing hit the water, and the geographist his head just slams. Because this would also play into another aspect.
Jeez.
The mechanics of your life pod, which in this case is going to be almost a different kind of ship, the way we're designing it. But in the life pod, your whole life pod's on fire. Because apparently somehow either
we could just have like a part of it like explode.
That's true. We could have that. Yeah, as it's like going through the atmosphere, maybe shrapnel hits the side of it.
Yeah, it's damaged when the Aurora's hit, and so like it doesn't have like kind of propelling engines, so it just kind of straight up enters the atmosphere at top speed, and like obviously stuff would catch on fire.
I think that could work.
And then they crash into the water, and 25 minutes in, that's where the movie really begins.
All right, so we're down to 3.
We're down to 3. We see the Aurora, descending and big crash into the water very far away. It'd be cool. I mean, the Aurora is huge. So like, what if it just sends up this giant wave, and by the time it hits the pod, it's just like a little ripple. Just so it can help convey that size a little bit more.
Right, and it also conveys the distance that is how far away they are from it. Do we want to include a secret fourth character? Here's what I mean. You want to get funky with it? Secret fourth character, AI, funny AI?
No way. This is not funny. This is not funny AI movie.
Oh, but that's in the game. Game got funny AI.
There's no place for funny AI in this one.
Okay, what about serious AI?
We can have serious,
not really a character, just of course
just
having
default
that in
AI.
there. I think since there's going to be other characters to communicate with, it's not necessary to have.
Not to say we can't have humor. We just don't want
but we don't have to have it in the machines.
Yeah, we don't want it to be funny AI. So we have pieces. We kind of know the structure. Like the ending, they get the rocket, they disable the laser, etc.
You think they will survive that long?
I mean I meant the main character. What I said, Riley. We have someone meets the Sea Emperor. We go to the facility of the ancient aliens where we kind of learn about the backstory. I think we go to the Degassi, or the wreckage, I should say. We should probably go to the Aurora as well. In any order that works for that.
So here's what I'm thinking. So they crash land. We realize that Mr. Geographer, Mr. Geographer is dead. He's got his equipment, and they can use that equipment. It's easy, simple. It incorporates. It's
like
easy.
It's tuned to the Degassi's like emergency signal or something like that.
Yeah, it's the black box would be sending out some kind of
right.
Chirp or something. So they find this, and there's like some very basic information that is incorporated into the AI of the ship they're on that can tell them about their surroundings, and it can say, water temperature of, blah, 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 and it's just giving basic information. I think we can kind of recreate the scene where it's like, the top hatch is opened and they just get this sense of vastness. We don't even have to recreate that with the characters anymore, since, of course, it's not a first-person medium.
Right.
We can just have it be seen,
I think we do need to trim a lot. We do need to trim a lot of the fat of the survival aspects. Like, honestly, I wouldn't hate just cutting the fabricator to begin with.
If we cut the fabricator, that's going to make that's going to need the engineer to be alive the longest, because then that implies that anything that's going to be developed or studied, which was the job of the fabricator, anything that needed to be broken down to understand its components, anything that would have needed to have been reconstructed, would have been the job of the AI. But now that we have an engineer character, if we don't want the fabricator to exist,
don't forget we have the other crew. So maybe there's like a person over there that can kind of, like a zoologist, biologist type who can kind of analyze the stuff that they're getting.
So how many other characters are we talking about survive?
I think we just have 2 in the other pod that survive.
2 in the other. Okay, so what are their roles?
Well, before I get there, we could also like maybe the engineer takes the ship because we've kind of made it where it's not so much an escape pod as it is like a exploration vessel. They
Right.
fix it up. They fix it up. They can get they pressurize it, all that good stuff for it to go underwater, and then the engineer dies somehow. And so later on, when something malfunctions or breaks in the pod, it can be a big deal because they're like, well, we don't have an engineer. And we're kind of screwed right now, so it can kind of build that tension for later.
Remember that their little pod their ship for exploration got damaged upon leaving the Aurora. It cannot be submerged until that's fixed, until it is repaired. We introduced the fabricator. We introduced that, okay, using what we have, we're able to seal this back up. We could give a little more exposition on how the system works in the ship, and it recreates that scene from the game where, of course, the ship is being rebuilt by your character, or the little life pod's being fixed by your character so that it can support life again.
Yeah.
They go on their exploration, they start looking around, and they're trying to... Because here's the thought, they're not going to be focused on the mission anymore because their ship just got destroyed.
Yeah. So what do you think?
So now they're probably thinking, okay, are we getting any signals from any life pods? Are we receiving any information from that? And there could be we could give some arbitrary number and say, yeah, at so many hundreds of yards or thousands of yards, that way we're getting a faint signal from a life pod. And then this would kind of be not to create a conflict, but this would be the point of saying, in the opposite direction, we're getting the faint signal of the other ship, the
Degassi,
whatever it was called. Yes, thank you, the Degassi.
Well, I think at that point they'd say screw the Degassi.
Right.
We've either got to go back to the Aurora to look for survivors, or we got to go find the other pod that was sent out with like the biologist, zoologist type people.
Well, I think it'd be funny in a inconvenient way if we bring up that point of maybe their first thought is to go towards the Aurora, but the exploration vessel that they have only has one of those radiation suits, with it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, well, that's not an option, and not saying that we would set up any of the characters to showcase the sense of, oh, well, I don't care if you die, but that could be almost a foreshadowing of like, hey, there's only one of these suits. And these places are going to need to be visited at some point,
That they want to go to the Aurora, but they don't have enough radiation suits, and like none of them are like, yeah, I'll go it alone. So they have to go find the other pod, which would obviously also have radiation suits.
Good. That's good.
Yeah,
I like it.
But
because that
it's going to take them a while.
Them immediate reason to go do something else that would, in a realistic situation, you wouldn't even consider doing,
Right. So, yeah, and I think this is when, I think on the journey to this other pod is when the engineer dies.
Okay.
For one reason or another. I think he should get killed by a big beast outside in the water. I think he's out there like creating or fixing something.
Right. Okay. That could also be the implication. I think that would lead into the next one of the next characters we introduced could be some kind of marine biologist or something. Yeah. Somebody who's going to understand alien life a little better.
Right.
And so before we meet them, we get exposed to these creatures. And then by the time we actually meet the person, they're like, well, yes, this is what is out there.
I think it should be, I don't know. I don't want it to be, they're like, oh, Salted broke. Well, I'll go swim out there and get it. I think it should be very tense where it's like, they're and like their signal
it shows them dark, deep dark depths.
Right. It shows them that this is very deep. The other pod, they got their lights on, and maybe the lights are flickering a little bit in this dark, and then something breaks. Maybe the light just straight up goes out. That could be something.
Oh, yeah.
And so the engineer,
the lights within the ship are still going, but they're like, we can't see anything.
Right, they're like the red auxiliary power. So the engineer's like, all right, I'm gonna go out and fix it, and you can hear the cry because the Leviathans make noise, right? Like they make cries and such.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be sounds, but you're also going to have, when you're in water, you're going to have ambient sounds of big things moving.
And it's just the scariest thing ever. And, we're sticking with with Riley and the medic in the ship. They're talking to the engineer over radio, and he's like, all right, I'm fixing the light, and then you hear maybe a roar that's a little closer. It's very, very tense. And then eventually they fix the light, and right as the light comes on, we see the Leviathan just like take the engineer. Just like we just see this giant shape just whisk the engineer off.
I think, of course, in the process, it damages the ship further.
Yeah.
This of course it creates the chaos that ensues, which is, what was that? What are we gonna do? What is this? And maybe the thing is no longer.
I think as soon as the Leviathan takes him, like we're in adrenaline mode. Like maybe a leak is something that's happening. So they're just like, all right, we can't fix this without getting killed. So we're just gonna gun it to the to that ship. The lights are on
right,
now.
Because that's the life pod's sending a signal that it's
right.
still,
and it's close enough. They should be able to make it, so you can have that tension. Maybe they're getting chased by a Leviathan or something like that.
We talk about hunting for that other life pod. Do we want there to be a radio communication between the two?
I don't think so. I don't think we find anything out until they're actually physically there.
So they just, as they see it, they're just going to that life pod because there's going to be resources there.
Both either the radiation suits or the or people. They're hoping for both.
No, I would say they're not are not that they wouldn't be hoping, but that they would expect.
Like they're not expecting. Yeah. Like if there are people there, they'd be like awesome, but like they're like, yeah. I mean, they're super deep underwater.
What condition do we want these people to be in? Because we have two routes.
I'm glad you asked. So we have the biologist, who's kind of familiar with, and I think just to escape the Leviathan, maybe the ship, because Leviathans are super big, right?
Yeah, they're huge.
So like maybe it's in like a little crack in a cave or something where a Leviathan couldn't get into, just by happenstance.
Okay, so it's in an area that's a nice touch, because that is something that's also very, very big in the game. Is you getting into little areas to hide and you escaping other
and it's
creatures.
The scariest thing ever.
Yeah. Because you're running out of oxygen.
Right.
Oh gosh, that'd be a little much. But what if the reason why there was no radio communication with these other people who are on the vessels and why they thought they were dead is because they just, like, to conserve oxygen, they're running on the absolute minimum and they're unconscious. Like they turned on.
I like
they
the first
turned on
part.
the
I don't
help
think
signal.
I don't think they should be unconscious.
And then you don't think they should be unconscious?
No, I do like them conserving oxygen.
I
well,
think
here's why.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
What I'm thinking, and this is my thought process here.
Yeah.
And once again, there's probably too much to try and explain in the scene itself, but I think this next biologist character, this alien life, character or whatever.
Right.
He's not gonna be evil, but he's gonna definitely be more science over reason. Over logic and all this. He's like, if this is the goal, we reach this goal no matter what. It doesn't matter. And he kind of put him and this other person into the situation where, okay, we flicked the thing for rescue. Instead of us staying awake, I'm turning on the oxygen, and it's going to induce unconsciousness so that our bodies will be operating at the actual bare minimum until somebody comes to save us.
That's not bad.
And I wish there was an easier way to explain that situation.
No, I get it.
Because I think
oxygen is a very big part of the game, and it's going to be a very big part of the movie as well. Because like as soon as they go underwater, it's like at the beginning maybe they dip in, they got oxygen tanks, and it's like, I can only stay down there for like 2 minutes. And as they upgrade the ship,
of course, as opposed to actual oxygen tanks in real life, one of the big factors of the game that I think we should incorporate is the ability to, once you are on the surface, it's not just compressed oxygen. You can refill it just by being in an oxygenated area. But, of course, it is still going to take oxygen,
Yeah. And maybe, like, the tanks got damaged or something. That's why they're not at full capacity or whatever.
Right.
Whatever you want to say. And maybe as they're going to this other ship, like, there's too much water, so they got to put on the oxygen tanks. And they're like, all right, we only got a minute of oxygen here, so we have to make it.
And that creates that more tense... Yeah. Because then
Even
when they finally get to the pod, they get in and they start gasping, and maybe they're not even getting enough, oxygen even then, and so they hit something. They're like, well, the thing's operational, hit it. They turn it on and the lights come on and they start breathing, and then all of a sudden you see these other people in the corner who are just knocked out.
Right, and maybe you see the dead bodies too.
Oh, I think
maybe there's 3 others.
I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with the dead bodies?
I think what I was thinking, and we can probably find a way to make both work. I was thinking just by happenstance, this other ship crashed near one of these underground facilities.
Oh.
Because it's kind of in a cave.
I think that would, that would actually help progress the story a bit too.
And so I was thinking, you know, the biologist is maybe going to explore them, or maybe the other person went, and one way or another, I want the other person, not the biologist, to have the virus already, and he infects the others, or she infects the others.
Well, the whole planet is infected. I think if we're going to change that route, it works still.
Well, I'm just how do you get infected?
By being on the planet, the whole planet.
Just being on the planet in general?
Yeah. Until the enzymes are released at the end of the game, which of course it's a little fantastical and whimsical, I think if we do want to make it a little more serious, we definitely go the route of, since the intelligent life of the planet had all the entirety of intelligent life had the virus, they quarantined the planet. Even if there are areas of the planet that did not have the virus, the fact that it existed in those research facilities meant that they quarantined the planet, which would imply that when that other person goes in, they get it. Oh man, what if they are just immediately symptomatic?
That's what I was going to say. Regardless of how it spread, maybe they're all infected. Two things though.
But they're going to be
this is when they find out that the virus exists, A, and then B, the other person is showing a lot of symptoms. And so, you know, we can kind of see the severity of it.
Yeah, I think this person would have it at almost an accelerated rate just for the showcasing of the audience, and then we can shoehorn some answer in as to why the other people aren't being affected as fast.
It could just straight up be age, like maybe they're their 60s, and they just happen to be showing it sooner.
Yeah, that's fine. That makes sense. What if the other person goes to explore, and the biologist guy, since he's just so matter of fact, maybe he induces himself into unconsciousness just because he's like, what can I do? There's nothing to do. I'll do this. You know.
I mean, I like the idea, and I like that it's not. I mean, it's not even. It's a good idea. I don't think it's a bad thing for the person to do.
And I think it would showcase, because if you are in a emotional state, you're going to do things. You're going to react based on, no, I don't want to be unconscious. Yeah. I would rather spend my last moments awake and conscious. But if you have voided yourself of emotion, or at least maybe, not to say this to imply anything, but maybe this guy has Asperger's or something, and that's just what makes him really intelligent. But of course, he does not see social situations or even reasonable situations as a factor.
Yeah.
Well, I don't need to be awake. I have no need. For this.
Yeah. So they walk into the pod. They see they turn on the lights. They turn on the oxygen. They see 5 bodies. They assume these bodies are dead, right? Because why wouldn't they? But suddenly the older person starts coughing, and they're like, "Oh, he's alive!" And then the biologist wakes up, and then we proceed from there. So that works. That works both ways.
Okay, and so then we set up that the older guy had investigated, and then came back because there was nothing. Kind of thing.
Yeah. Or maybe they both investigated or something. Well, why? I don't know. Why would they investigate? Not because we need them to find stuff in there. We need them to kind of discover a little bit about the world.
Good point.
Or do we set it up for late? Or do we just set up the fact that there are facilities and then save for later when they actually go inside them and learn about the Sea Emperor and all that good stuff?
I think we could do that. I think we could set it up, but not set it up in a sense of like, oh, we're going to save this for later. I think we can immediately do something with that specific facility. But
maybe we could just have
the matter of the fact was maybe that they did not have any kind of system. So the AI or whatever in their life pod is inactive or broken or whatever. And so they didn't have any way to obtain this information. But our 2 characters who have just met them have that geographer's bag. With working technology. Since
they're in a Leviathan area, maybe they see the entry. I don't know what they look like in game, but I'm just imagining kind of like a tunnel, like an underwater tunnel.
They're very squarish. Everything is extreme. It almost looks like slate. You know how the stone, like slate when it forms, it's like squares. It looks like that, but vertical and
I'm just thinking. whatever the entrance, the entrance is there. It's very clear that this is a man-made structure, but it's been damaged by like a rock falling or something.
Organic thing.
So yeah, so they're like, okay, well there was intelligent life here, but we can't get in this one. Whatever, it's probably not important. Let's go to the Aurora because they have working radiation suits.
Maybe they are there at this point. We hear the old man coughing when they enter, but that's just because he's old. And we could even set that up and be like, yeah, he's, I'm old, whatever.
All right.
And then when they get to this thing and they go and investigate it, what if they all have to go in? Like now that they have the geographer's tools, they realize there's an air pocket in there. If we can get in there, we can refill our oxygen tanks and then get back to the surface with the life pod, So like they basically it's like there's oxygen down here or there's something down here that we can utilize because now they have those tools to sense it where the other people wouldn't have even, done anything because there was no option.
Since the second pod has oxygen, but it's like broken, like it can't really operate. Maybe Riley.
Right.
I think that the older person should be like very clearly ill. Like they can barely move. They're very weak. They're coughing blood
so
or
they're
whatever.
just already ill. Yeah.
Right. Like it's very like maybe the medic's just like, what's wrong with him? He's like, I don't know. The biologist says, I don't know if something happened in the crash or something. I'm not sure.
Or
so
you could even put it as the biologist just dismisses it as old age until.
Yeah. Riley is maybe he's transferring the oxygen from the broken pod to the working pod. He's staying with the older person because, they're old, they can't move. And maybe maybe the zoologist and the medic have to go to that air pocket. Maybe they explore the ruins as far as they can just to get a little more oxygen. So that way you can kind of have that A plot and the B plot going.
All right, so what happens in the life pod with Riley and the old man?
I don't think really anything. I think we keep them alive until they get to the Aurora at the very least. So I think we can have the tense scene where the medic and the zoologist are going in the ruin or the facility. I don't think anything super dangerous happens. It's just kind of tense.
I think it's tense. It's dark. It doesn't look nice.
They get back. They get in the pod. I think they head to the Aurora. And I think at this point the older person's symptoms are going to start worsening, and I would assume the medic's going to stay with them.
What if we let the zoologist pick up some information? I don't know if we would define it as some kind of data thing, or maybe it's like it looks like it's just, a stone or something.
Yeah.
Because of his interest in alien life. That would help expedite some information later, because then when we get to a point where we could set up, say when they finally are able to get to the Aurora, investigate it, they're able to use the AI to give them information about what they found.
So they get a little bit of a tease about the lore of this place.
Yeah, takes some souvenirs for himself, and they go back.
So they go to the Aurora. The older person's getting worse. The medic's going to stay with them, try to do what she can. I think Riley and the zoologist go in, but it's pretty obvious that no one's left. Everyone's dead. Rather,
I want to have the inclusion of two things that you probably do not want to have.
Oh?
I want to have a reason for them to build a base. That's
going to be so much extra work.
Not
it's
necessarily.
So unnecessary.
But also,
right.
You have to have the base to have the rocket. You know what I mean?
There's two ways we could get around that.
I think we could implement something into the Aurora, where the Aurora has certain equipment. So, for example, the Aurora kind of, while they have to, of course, be in the radiation suits, a la alien-esque, suits.
Yeah.
The whole time that they're in the Aurora, and that, of course, means that now they're having to use radio to communicate, and that can create more tension and everything. I think they find these rockets, and I say maybe the medic at some point. There's a series of rockets. Maybe there's not just one, but these are things put on this colonist ship designed for immediate evacuation from a planet if needed. It's like their whole purpose. They're mostly functional, or maybe there's just
they go one
functional.
direction. They go one direction, which is up. Yeah.
What if the medic, gets in one, decides to leave on their own terms or something, and leaves, but then gets blasted by that laser again? And that's when they realize, we can't leave until that thing is shut down.
Well, we have the third. Let us not forget about the third ship.
I feel like in the game, the third ship is just kind of a narrative point to show that. And so I think if we incorporate it with the sense of a lone, that the Aurora was a lone out in this area of space.
Yeah.
Because it's having to set up a gate. There is no travel out here yet.
What if the colonists they dropped off at the beginning have a ship, and so they through the Aurora's comm systems they managed to say like, hey, we're stranded, we need some help. And so they're like, all right, we'll send a ship to you as soon as we can.
Okay, I'm a little more comfortable with that because that would imply that it's not too far, and it'd be like, well,
right.
You do realize, we just got here and we don't have any resources and all this, and it's like, it's like we just dropped us off. I'm not saying that these people would be like stupid and selfish, but we get this realization that they're not going to have a really powerful ship anyway, but they're probably just going to be able to come down to the surface. They
have something that could work though.
Yeah,
but it'll take a while.
So then now they're focused on surviving until the ship gets here to pick them up. That's their thought for the next 5 minutes.
I think now the symptoms of the older person should get a lot worse, and then this is when they kind of discover that the virus is a thing.
Okay, I like that. So this would be Medic 1. Medic 1 points out that human illness ain't so nice.
I wanted on the rocket note. I like the idea of the rockets in the Aurora. But I think maybe like all the engines are damaged or like they don't have an active nuclear rocket engine, and the only one they can find is in the Degassi, which gives them a reason to go there.
I think this could happen almost right before they contact the colonists. So they find the rockets, they see it themselves as a way to escape, but then the mechanic looks at it and says, these are models from this year. We don't make these kind of, there's no longer these kind of engines. They're damaged. The only way that we'd be able to find these is if they were on... And then, kind of the realization, the Degassi, a ship from 10 years ago.
Instead of them waiting for the ship, because I kind of hate that, because that just kind of kills the momentum.
The waiting is important for two purposes, and not to kill momentum. I think it wouldn't kill momentum if they get this information, they say, okay, well, we will keep you up to date. We're going to try and get there as quick as we can, and we imply that there's no like immediate quick solution, to this. I think that's gonna create a small pocket of relief where they're like, okay, now we don't have anything to worry about. Then the symptoms start showing in the old man. Immediately we're shifted to this narrative. While the downtime of understanding what this ship is, and then we could even have a dialogue too, where they get information without them realizing what's really going on the planet. They kind of think, well, if we're infected with this virus, do we want to give it to the people who are coming to save us? And you could have maybe like the
moral
medic
quandary.
Number 1 is like, we don't have a choice. We have to get off this planet. And that creates another kind of question of morality, a question of what's the point,
Well, I think the medic would be the opposite. I think the medic would be in favor of just dying.
Okay, so you think maybe that it would be...
the other, maybe Riley and the zoologist can be.
Yeah, they're like, we've got no other choice. We've got to leave. Okay, cool.
I think we should make it immediate. Like, I don't think we should say like, yeah, we'll be there in 2 weeks. Like, I think we should be like, all right, we'll be there in a few hours.
No, we don't give a time frame. I think it's this is going to happen when we can.
It's soon.
Yeah, it's soon. We can have time pass, but this whole thing with the virus happens while this downtime is occurred. So then when they get the information, say, hey, we're approaching the planet. We're going to lock onto your coordinates once we're in range, and we'll fly down and pick you up off of the signal given off of the Aurora.
Okay,
they go to do that, and now they're in the question of, do we make this choice? Riley and the zoologists are like, we don't have any other choice. We have to get on this ship.
And then the ship shows up before they could make the choice, basically, and then the choice is made for them.
Yep.
I think while they're waiting in the downtime, the zoologist discovers another facility nearby. So I think he and whoever else goes to explore that, and then that's when they learn about the virus, and that can kind of spur that. Spur that dialogue about.
So, in what way do they learn about the virus then?
I don't know. They learn about it. Just however it is, what happened. They learn the whole backstory, basically.
They learn it by seeing it within the old man.
Right, but like they learn the full lore about it. Like they learn why, or they learn what happened and all that good stuff. And
okay,
they learn about the Leviathan enzymes and all that.
Why don't we go ahead and bring in the Emperor without realizing that it's the Emperor? We bring in this telekinetic voice.
That's fine. And so the telekinetic voice will give them the backstory.
Right.
And maybe they go, because isn't the Sea Emperor like chained up somewhere, captured?
It could be captured up. I think we could, if now see, and I don't remember this in the game, which is my fault, but if it is in captivity, we could say that that's the researchers doing, and they all died before anything was happened, so that the King Emperor is still just like, Sea Emperor is still just chained up.
Well, maybe it's the facility they're there is near enough to the Sea Emperor where she can contact them, and then from then we learn the backstory.
All right.
And I think as they have the conversation about the virus, they see the ship, it goes bye, and they're like, all right, well, the only course option now is just get this rocket, and to need that, we need to go to the Degassi.
Yeah.
And we also need to deactivate the laser. So do they do both at the same? Do they split up?
This stretches it out.
Yeah.
But I think this might be more easy to digest this way. What if they witness the virus and the doctor can tell it is a virus and it's killing the old man, and maybe the old man just straight up dies during that time that they're waiting for the other ship, and that's when the gravity of the situation impacts them. Then they have to make the decision on the ship, but then they figure out they need to get to the rocket. Maybe they're even thinking like, we don't have a choice, we have to try, even if we get shot out of the sky. So they go to the Degassi, and next to the Degassi would be where it'd be further down. It's in the depths. It's where the Sea Emperor would be contained.
That works, yeah.
Because then it's kind of like we let the audience infer some things. We let the audience infer some things about this virus, infer some things about what the laser is, and then it's all revealed as they're reaching this climax. Obviously not all at once.
I was just trying to think of stuff they could do in the downtime waiting for the ship to come.
Right.
Stuff like that. I mean, you could slow the pace down. Maybe they find some food in the ship, they cook it. You have a little dinner. So you learn a little bit more about these characters.
Oh, yeah. No, I that's what I'm saying. That small bubble of relief is like, hey, small dialogue scene, but then the dialogue scene ends with the old man coughing and falling over, So
and then so I think the old person's gonna hang on to life a little bit longer, but like it's pretty clear they're on their way out. All right, so I like they're headed to the Degassi, then they contact the Sea Emperor. They find the nuclear engine or whatever it is that they can put in the rocket. But then I think the Sea Emperor will tell them like, you got to deactivate this, and to do that you got to free me and get my baby boys out of them eggs and get them enzymes and cure yourself. And this is when we're back to killing people from then on, because you sneak into a Leviathan nest, right?
Well, the whole other research facilities where you have to get the things required to birth, to hatch the eggs, to basically incubate them, the necessary things to incubate them. And that is where all of these monsters are. Is
instead of like having an incubation chamber, they just have to get an egg, bring it to the Emperor, and like she can hatch it pretty quick because she's the incubator.
Oh, so you could say that the eggs are
like ready. They're ready to go. They just
they're further. They're in the other facility.
Right.
See, and I was thinking the eggs were with the Emperor, but you're saying that the eggs are away from the Emperor.
How is it in the game? I mean, both work. I don't know how the game does it.
I like yours a little better.
I
don't think it matters. Okay. The route doesn't matter. If we do the point where they have to go to the facility to get the eggs, and we could say that since this creature is mystical on several levels, it can sense that its eggs, are in good condition, and it's just, you need to bring them to me.
And then the Sea Emperor is in the same facility where you can like upload your DNA and show you're not infected and disable the laser.
Yeah,
basically.
we'll say that the main facility. The one that controls everything is where the Degassi is near. I think that, once again, it kind of is this level of everything is centralized at this one point. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily by coincidence. It is because this is like the deepest point of the waters, All
right, so the old man has died to the virus. Obviously, someone will die to the Leviathan when they're getting the egg. That is obvious.
I think that should be the zoologist, honestly.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, like they're in a facility. Maybe he's like, oh, I got to go check out what's over here. More alien evidence. And then
it could even be that they get infatuated with the Leviathan to their own death,
that works too. We could just have the medic also succumb to the virus and like kind of just even make the clock tick even faster.
Yeah, and I think the medic would be aware of their own, I was going to say mortality. Yeah. I think everybody's aware of their own mortality. I think the medic is aware of the effect that the virus is having on them. the situation for them seems a little more intense, and they can express that, and how they're trying to push this along and rush this.
Yeah, and maybe they could also help with the incubation process a little bit, and they're like, I'm not going to make it. You're just going to have to leave me behind. That's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to get off this planet
and he could even
anyway.
say something. He's like, when these enzymes affect you, they'll be able to restore, what the virus has damaged in you. It won't work for me.
Riley is left alone.
I think there should be like a final conversation. So the enzymes work. We see the little baby emperors. We have this final dialogue with the Sea Emperor,
I mean, it's not a comforting presence, but it is on their side.
Well, with how big the thing is, right? I think when you're seeing it, you're only seeing its head, which when you see its full body at the end, it's a lot more majestic looking. But when you see its head, it's like this barnacle covered, big
it's like
when you're looking close up on a whale,
Yeah, it's scary. Whales are scary. I don't like them.
Yeah, and so as you're telepathically receiving this voice that's not necessarily scary, just a little weird, you're also hearing these really low, just whale-like noise. It's all creepy.
And then basically from then on, they have to get back to the Aurora. I think is there anything bigger than the Leviathan? They could be, we got to get some tension here.
I think instead of maybe the Leviathans being at the other research facility, we introduce some of the other creatures, and then we bring back the Leviathan.
Yeah, or maybe the Aurora has kind of been taken over by another creature. And so Riley has to kind of sneak through to get to the rocket.
Because if we, it's what we want the threat to be. If we want the threat to be
whatever fish it is, some kind of scary fish.
Yeah, some kind of fish. Or we could even we could have the threat be a time. This is going to sound crazy, but in the game, you have some time that you can just kind of mess around and have fun with, just experiencing the game. And then once you reach a certain point, I don't know if it's by progression or an actual timer, the Aurora blows up. So you can still salvage the ruins, which is your point, but its whole reactor system fails, and that's what radiates, further radiates. So the radiation is already bad enough.
We can introduce that when they're in the Aurora the first time.
I think that would be a good time bomb. So for example, them getting from the depths back to the Aurora is this. There's these creatures, and there's the fear of the creatures, and maybe they narrowly escape the.
Well, there's also this ticking time bomb.
Which is and they have to leave. They have to get out now. It's now or never. There's no rest, even though. Well, you could
even say when they're waiting for the ship, they could discover this and be like, oh, you got 3 days or whatever till this blows up, and then when the ship gets destroyed by the laser, they're like, oh crap, now we really got to go in a second gear here. That would
really push it. That would allow for everything else to kind of be this venture at a high speed. Yeah.
I think we have that shot that I was talking about where you got the rocket. Maybe you see the
you see the full scale
Emperor.
of the Leviathan.
Yeah, just swimming down there. Maybe they have one last message, either grateful or philosophical, whatever.
In the game, you take a screenshot to put and send to the next save file and stuff. So it'd be funny.
Yeah.
Selfie with the Leviathan.
They take a selfie. Yeah. And then honestly, I'm fine with ending it there. Just credits roll. We don't really need to see what happens.
I think this was a little slower than some of the other ones we made, but I really think that it fits some of the initial emotions that you get from playing Subnautica. I mean, there was a streamer that I would watch playing it, and it was just fear.
You go at your own pace, so until you work up the courage to go into those depths, you got to do it, or you just stop playing, which is why I did, because I'm a coward. So we call this Subnautica, right?
Yeah, I don't think we need a subtitle.
It's definitely got some kinks we could work out with further conversation, but we got the bones, and here at Speculation Station, we're all about the bones.
Yes, we're going to set this up. We
bones.
Always have the potential to return to a topic, and we would love for people who know about this topic to reach out to us and say, "Hey, you messed up here."
We did.
Yeah, you started saying something about the story, but that was just wrong. And if you liked it, also let us know. That helps too.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I'm more concerned with the story of the movie itself than the actual how well it ties into the lore. But there's always a middle ground that we can find when it comes to
I lean more on the lore and fan service usually, but I do understand the importance of a story for the general audience.
That's why we work so well together, Joseph. If you want to check out all the other episodes, all our stuff on YouTube, etc., you can find our website, which is Speculative Reelism. That's realism with two E's, like a film reel.com. Speculativerealism.com.
And you can find links on there to all those things that we just mentioned and our Patreon, where you can support us. Yeah.
Oh.
Do you know what a Patreon is?
It's where people can support us.
With?
Money.
Yeah.
To help us make better content.
If you want to, if you like what you see.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
If you like
what
you see.
I like it.
Let us.
I like this. I like that.
You can also find our email on the website. Send us game/movie ideas.
Yeah.
You can also find on that website, with everything else, our links to social media. That includes Twitter, Facebook, and anything else that we could possibly be on.
We are on Parler.
We are on Gab.
Did you say Gap?
Gab.
Gab. I don't know. What's that one?
As another conservative one that failed.
Oh. We're on Tinder. We are at Spec Reel on all those platforms, and that's how you can find us on all those links. Our podcast also on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get podcasts. We are on there. Just search Speculation Station.
Well, we're about to head off. We are leaving the Speculation Station.
We will see you guys on the next stop.
A choo-choo. Bye.